Hey everybody, it's me Estella and I am back with Vlogmas Day 2. Since I know some of you guys still have finals going on either this week or next week, since I know different schools end at different times, I figured why not make a video about test taking. Even if you already had your finals, you can still use these tips for any future tests that you have, or midterms or finals in May, or even AP exams if you're taking AP classes. So I just figured it's a good time, since everyone's in the test taking mood, why not just give out some tips that I personally find useful for test taking. So yeah, before we get started, comment below when your finals are or where, and I'm just curious like when your school had finals, and also when your school ends or ended if your winter break started already. But I'm just curious like how different our schools are. Okay, so the first thing that I recommend is pretty obvious and straightforward, but it's actually really important, and I almost forgot this myself. So the first thing you should do is, before you start studying for your finals or just a series of tests that you have, you should go over what is going to be on the final or on the test, and then kind of go through the material from like either the lectures that you attended or the textbook like pages that you had to read, and kind of skim over what you have to actually know for the test. And also usually some teachers give outlines for the test, so that's a good way to establish what you need to know. But I definitely recommend first going through all of the classes that you have to take and seeing what is going to be on the final, because sometimes the teacher will add in some information or also say like, these chapters are not important, so they're not going to be on the final. So you really don't know. And while you're skimming over it, it's also a good way to review what you learned during the semester, because at the end of the semester, you might not really remember everything or all of the things that you struggled with, and it's just a good way to kind of figure out what you review, how much time you're gonna need to review for everything, and yeah. So it's good to just kind of do a skim over of all of your subjects before you start diving into a single one. And once you've done that and you've kind of figured out like, okay, which classes I need to spend the most time on, which classes I need to spend less time on, or you might come across some surprises like, oh, I totally forgot that this chapter is going to be on the final and I totally did not read it during the semester or something like that, and I really need to review that. It might take a really long time. So that after you've done that, I always make a study calendar. So what I do is I just get a calendar, just any regular one, or I draw one on a piece of paper, and then I kind of start shading in with different colors, because you know I'm like that, with different colors what days I'm going to study for which finals. And for me personally, I always typically study for one test per day. That's just my style. I always just found it easier for me to focus on one subject. However, some people find for them it's easier to do 2 or 3 subjects in a day. So then you would just shade in like what times of the day you would be studying for that particular final. But for instance, let's say I had like my anthropology and 2 stats finals, for instance, and then you have your anthropology final on Monday, I would recommend putting like Sunday and Saturday or something, or at least Sunday the day before for the anthropology finals, so that you can, right before, you'll have a lot of the information fresh in your memory, and then like on the Monday after the test, study for the test that's on the next day or something like that. But it's just a good way kind of to see how many days you have left, how much time you have, and I just find it really useful for me, and also kind of like to cross off the days before the last final. So yeah. My next tip is to always know the format of the exam and exactly what's going to be on it. So like I said before about reviewing the material that you covered in the semester, for instance, you might know that there's going to be only multiple choice questions, or there's going to be the majority of the tests is going to be free response questions or essays. Then you can kind of plan accordingly and practice based on your weak areas. So for example, I'm gonna keep going back to my finals from recently, but for my anthropology final, I knew that all of the questions were going to be multiple choice, and also that a lot of them from the midterm were similar. Some of them were similar to some of the multiple choice questions that she had put on the PowerPoints previously. So I made sure to review the PowerPoint questions and prioritize that to make sure that I had covered all the kind of easy points if you had reviewed those questions from the PowerPoints. So that's just an example. And then if you know that it's going to be a lot of essay writing, then make sure you go over the essays you've written throughout the semester, maybe write a few practice ones, kind of think about what prompts might pop up on the test, etc. But it's really good to just know the format, and if you don't know the format, then ask somebody who does. My fourth tip for you guys is to make a cram sheet. So I personally always found this super helpful, and what I do is I usually have just one sheet of paper where I put down the most important things that I need to remember or my weakest areas, and usually I read it around 2 days before the final, like once I've reviewed all of the material, and then the night before and the morning of, I will just review the cram sheet and not be overwhelmed by all the notes that I have. And I just always found this really useful, and it just kind of helps me prepare before the test and kind of review the things that I know that might come up that I need to remember. And last but not least, make sure to be mentally ready for the test, and some techniques that I use for that. I might make a separate video with more of the things that I do, but make sure that you don't kind of overwhelm your brain with too many things the night before, the morning of. So I try to avoid, it's kind of like a ritual of mine, but I avoid looking at any TV or my phone even, like I won't go on Instagram, I won't read my emails. I just won't do anything that could potentially distract me from the tests, even the night before. That could just kind of like, I don't know, for instance on Instagram you can see like so-and-so posted this and there's this huge drama or something, and it could kind of throw your mind off track. So I definitely recommend kind of just putting away your phone, putting away any distractions until after the test, and that's just personally super helpful for me, and it's kind of like a ritual where I just don't look at anything. I won't even like read a book the night before. I'll just straight up be reviewing the material the night before and then go to sleep, and in the morning I'll just keep reviewing my cram sheet and then go and take the test. And I keep reviewing literally until the last minute. Some people don't recommend to do that, but it just works for me. That's personally my experience. So yeah. Anyway, so I hope you guys found this video helpful, and that you guys ace your finals or tests or whatever midterms that you're taking right now, or already took and you don't know the score you got yet, if that's your case. But yeah, so I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I know tests can be really stressful. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful, and if you did, please leave a like, and yeah. So I will see you guys in my next video for Vlogmas. So bye guys!